Okay.
Okay, so we want to talk about what it means to be a showing agent and the different parameters of being a showing agent. I have three overarching slides that'll kind of give us an idea what we should keep in mind, and what we need to do in all these three criterias. So it's split up pretty logically. What is your task before showing? What is your task during the showing? What is your task after the showing? And some of these things require a little bit of detail, a little bit of explanation. The meeting is supposed to be about 30 minutes. We might go into 137 since we're starting at 107. But before we start, are there anything that you guys think are challenges that you come across when you or a showing agent that you've come across in the past where you're like, you know what, man, this is kind of tough for me to do, or I always have an issue with this. Is there something like that that you guys have before I start showing the slides? If go ahead.
Yeah, maybe the only thing is when the clients don't have a complete idea, and then when you're at the showing, they're thinking about like, hey, can you show me other houses, um, like around the area or something, in the last second,
Ah, good, good.
you
I
know.
like that. I didn't add that. Okay, we'll talk about that. So adding a last second showing, right? Okay. Okay. Let's make sure to discuss that. Okay, we're gonna go forward, and I'm gonna show you guys. We'll come about the showing then. Remember, three phases: before showing, during showing, and after showing. So sometimes during showing they'll add in random houses, and how do you deal with that? But let's talk about what we're supposed to do before showing. If you're a showing agent, this is the responsibility you're supposed to have toward the client. One, when you're this is before showing, pre-showing, when you're communicating with the client in the group chat, sometimes showing agents become like dead or silent or quiet. It shouldn't be like that. They should kind of work with the client to help them narrow their price point, because at first we're going to give them a range so they can get a good feel of what kind of house they really want. So let's say someone says, Sayed, I want to spend about 275K, right? They don't know if they'd be willing to spend 300K because maybe a 300K house will be worth it. So then at the beginning, like you guys know, we'll show them a house at 250, 275, and 300. So they can see, okay, maybe I need to spend more money, or maybe I don't need to spend 275. Maybe I'm happy with the 250K house, right? So before showing start, we're going to be sending out price ranges that vary, and then over time, you're slowly going to narrow that. What does that mean? It means if we've already done 250, 275, and 300, and they hated 250, like they didn't even consider it. And then we say, you know what, the 275 barely made it, and we really like 300. That means now the range is between 275 and 300. They might come back and say, hey, there's another house for 250, 260, 268. And you have to narrow that and say, look, we barely like 275. It didn't even pass. Maybe the pictures are overselling us, but 9 times out of 10, even 10 times out of 10, you're not going to go for the house that's 250, 260, because we've already seen what that kind of quality of house looks like. And sometimes we have a hard time having that kind of communication, but you need to narrow it. And if you need help, I can help with that, but it needs to come a point where you can do that on your own. Second point is that calling and texting listing agents beforehand. You don't have to do that usually for like Warren houses or Sterling Heights houses, but Tanim, from experience going to Detroit, it's a whole ball game, right? You have to call the agent.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got to call the agent, make sure they actually have access to the house. Just because they give you a confirmed, a lot of agents, including myself, make this mistake, which is you see the confirmation and you're all good to go, but you don't realize they didn't actually give you a code. There's no code in showing time. So you have to double check and say, okay, did they actually give me a code? Did they give me access information? If not, let me call the agent. Sometimes on the same day scheduling, let's say it's Monday morning, it's 9 a.m., and your client says, can we see something today? Maybe you're available and maybe it works for you. In that case, what you would do is say, okay, no problem. You schedule something at 10 o'clock. You schedule for 5 o'clock after your client is free from work, but you do it at 10 a.m. So you send in the request at 10 a.m. It's 11 a.m. It's 12 p.m. It's 1 p.m. Some agents just sit. They're just waiting for the confirmation. It's been 3 hours. Think about it. If you're a listing agent and someone sends in a request, you would want to confirm that right away. So if it's been 3 hours and there's no confirmation, either the listing agent didn't see it yet, or there's another issue going on, or this house is not priority for that listing agent. So I would say at that point, around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you should get in touch with the listing agent and say, hey, even a text message like, hey, can you please confirm our showing? I really want to show my client at 5 o'clock. Simple as that. And obviously tell them like, it's Sayed from EXP. We have a showing for 5 o'clock. Still waiting for confirmation. Can you look into it? I've done that so many times, and almost every single time right after I text them, then they confirm it, and they haven't seen it before that. Okay, so this is really important. Third thing is organizing the route logically, right? You're going to be showing about 3 houses, sometimes even 4 houses. Make sure it makes sense, and it can be based on your logic, not my logic. Like maybe you live at 12 Mile and Ryan, right? And you're like, you know what, the first house I want to be closer to my house, or maybe the last house I want to be closer to my house. On the way back, I go home quickly, depending on your schedule, right? But don't make it where you're going north, south, east, west, right? Just pay attention to that. The way to do that is just check on your maps and just see what it is. Showing time has a tour setting as well. But outside of that, usually what's faster is just you just check quickly on your maps and seeing where they are. Any questions on these 3 things that I mentioned pre-showing? Do you guys feel like these are things that you're used to doing already right now?
Yeah, to like a lesser degree, I guess.
Okay,
Besides
cool.
number one, I feel like number two and three, I kind of do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. And number
number
one is
one, I
something
need
you're
to
gonna
work on.
slowly build on, right?
Um,
Okay, let's go to the next one, the during showing, okay? This is important. This is so important. Number one, reminders, communication. What am I referring to? I'm referring to the fact that if you're the showing agent and that, let's say your client, let's go back to that same scenario. 9 a.m. he said, Sayed, I want to see a house today at 5. You're like, cool. You get some free time on your hand at 10 o'clock. You send in the request to go see it at 5 o'clock. Great. Now it's 3 o'clock. You got the communication done. It's confirmed. At 4 o'clock, you should ask your client, hey, what do you think is going to be your ETA? Especially if you have a client who is often late. If you have a client who's often late, speak in a way where you're basically letting them know that you're already assuming them to be late, and just say, look, in a respectful way, and say, look, hey, what's going to be your ETA? I'm planning on showing up when the same time you are. So if you can just let me know, I'll head out accordingly. Simple as that. That's one objective. The other objective is reminding them. They could have forgotten. Maybe they got caught up with picking up their kid from school and it went over their head and they forgot they had a showing at 5 o'clock. So an hour before the showing, you should let them know. Today at 12 o'clock, I sent you guys a text in the group chat, right? Reminding you guys, hey, there's a training meeting happening 1 hour from now. That is very key, making sure that you send a reminder an hour before, because the last thing you want is you show up, they don't show up, and then it's like, okay, what just happened, right? Now I have a question. What happens if that does happen? What happens if you show up and they don't end up showing up? What do you guys do then? What's your guys'
um,
answer for that?
when you call them, right?
Yeah, they're not picking up.
I
Like
don't know.
you've
Wait.
been messaging them from 4 p.m., they're not picking up. 4:30 you called, they didn't pick up, they're not texting back. You don't take the risk, so you show up at 5, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get blamed right away. They're gonna blame you in a heartbeat. You came
Yeah.
at 5, now it's 5:10. What do you do?
I don't know. Wait. I'd probably personally wait 15 minutes, give them another call, text, and if not, let them know that we can reschedule for another day.
Okay, Tufaba, you have any ideas? So what you want to do is, he's probably working with the client right now. What you want to do is you want to be effective. So if it's 5:10, okay, Tanim, I said 10 minutes intentionally. I'm going to use the remaining 5 minutes to video record the house with full commentary, okay? By the time I finish video recording that house, it's going to be 5:15. And then I can say, look, I waited 15 minutes, do courtesy. I know you couldn't show up. I'm sure something came up. It's okay. And on top of that, I recorded the house for you with commentary. So I've been there myself. Here's a video of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
And that might reduce you going out there one more time. Maybe they might see something and say, oh, it's not even worth it. Or if they do
Yeah.
want to see it, then that means they really do like it. which is worth going
Yeah.
back for. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then your 15 minutes gets used up that way, right? Now, number 3 is really important. Highlight key features and avoid overselling the property. Let the property speak for itself. Homes don't need to be sold. People are with you going to see a house because they need to buy a house, right? Most people. You always have anomalies. You always have people that are on the market for 2, 3 years. We're not talking about them. We're talking about actual serious buyers, right? Some people think they're serious because they have money. That's not what determines if you're serious. What determines if you're serious is that you have a need. You have an actual need to buy a house, right? Just because you have 200K sitting in your bank account doesn't mean you're going to buy a house. So when you're dealing with serious buyers, you just highlight the key features, highlight key issues, and leave it at that. You don't have to say, now, let's say it's on your 3rd day or 4th day of showing with this client. That's when you can say, look, we're narrowing the price point. We're at this point. From the last 9, 10 houses we've seen, it seems like this is probably the best house for you guys. If you see a house like that, you need to mention that. If you see a house that stands out, right, but based on what they've been telling you or what matters to them, then you need to point that out. How do you know what matters to them? That's going to come up later in the next slide. But right now, what you need to understand is when you're showing the house, and if it does come up, people are hiring you because they confide in you. So sometimes you have some agents that are like, well, I don't want it to be on my watch that they buy a house and then they regret it. It won't be, because they're most likely going to have an inspection done, right? And you're going to ask them questions for them to affirm whether or not they want this house. The decision will always be theirs so long as you ask them a question to affirm it. Because you can say, hey, to me, it looks like this is the best house from what you've mentioned so far. Do you agree? They could disagree with you. If they agree with you, that's on them, right? But in reality, you have to kind of assess it, and based on the houses we've seen and the amount of houses we see over our entire career, we have a good idea of, okay, this is probably what they are looking for. This is probably what they need, and they are hiring you for that. You are a consultant, right? So if you just say this has a house, this is a house with a door and a living room and a bedroom and a dining room, that being helpful, right? And what's the point of hiring you even, right? You need to bring that value to them. Any questions on number 3? Okay. Number 4, MLS remarks and showing instructions. So always have showing time. You're going to have showing time pulled up anyway, right, on your phone. But while you're when you park, you're about to go to the house, have showing time pulled up and have the MLS pulled up directly from showing time. Because if they ask specific questions like, hey, what year was this house built? Hey, do you have the dimensions for this bedroom? It's all in MLS, right? So if you have it pulled up, you actually bring a lot of value to them on the spot. Not every house is going to have a printout ready for you where you can see, hey, this bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3 dimensions, right? The only negative is that your seller disclosure are not going to come up on your computers, on your phone, and neither is going to be the lead-based paint disclosure, which is fine. If they ask you something like, has there been water before in the basement? Obviously, that comes up in the seller disclosure, right? Which you don't have access to here, and you can't. Sometimes you might not have time to see every single house's seller disclosure before you go see it. It's just not practical, frankly speaking, especially given that they probably won't even consider most of the houses you see to put an offer on. So you can mention something simply as saying, look, that's within the seller's disclosures, which is not found right here on my phone. I'd have to get on my laptop and look at it. As soon as I get home, I'll let you know. You see, you're giving them a solution to the problem that they're proposing, right? So
Wait, is the seller's disclosures like when you're looking at a house? Is it just if you look at the house up on MLS, it's there, right?
yeah, on C docs, attached docs, those documents
Oh
they
yeah,
attach, but you don't have that feature on your phone. That's the problem.
yeah. Okay.
But when you tell them that and you explain that to them, then they understand you have knowledge of how to deal with it and where to find it. And then they trust in that, right? And then that's what I'm talking about, MLS remarks and showing instructions. Sometimes the remarks have things on there, the private remarks. Always, always, always look at private remarks. That's an agent talking to another agent. So most likely they have something on there. If they do, it's something that's very relevant for you. Any questions on these things? Oh, number 2, I forgot, scheduling effectively. I skipped that. 20 minutes per showing, right? Just because you schedule a showing for 30 minutes or an hour doesn't mean you should spend 30 minutes to an hour there, especially if you're showing 3, 4 houses. That's not effective, right? You need to lead the client, and you need to lead the client, say, look, we're here, we need about, the next house is probably 10 minutes away. And the reason behind that is because usually when people are looking at houses, they're in the same city, right? You might be in East Warren, then you go to West Warren. That's about a 10 to 12 minute drive, right? So he said, look, the next house is about 10 minutes away. We should start heading out right about now to catch the next showing. Does that make sense? Don't just, if they start asking a lot of questions, say, look, hold on, like, a lot of questions means unnecessary questions in addition to what you've already explained about the house. You've already spoken about the house, you've pointed out key features, you've pointed out key problems, and you've pointed out, hey, this is, I recommend this or I don't recommend this. Now, if they keep going on into that house and keep talking and talking and talking and talking and having a conversation, you need to remind them, look, we need to see the other houses, because then you can actually properly compare. If you just sit at one house, you're going to think about this house the entire time. If it's a bad house, you're going to think bad the entire time. Maybe the next house is better. Let's go see that, right? Also, you have to be strategic. Sometimes you have to think, okay, which house do I want to show them first, you know? Remember, we said to schedule it based on proximity and practicality. You also should schedule it based on price, okay? Like, hey, which price do I think will work more? Or you can schedule it based on what's been on the market longer, right? Because I know if the house has been on the market longer, I can negotiate probably. Whereas if the house came on the market this week, I barely have any room for negotiation. So those things are really important to keep in mind. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now if there's no questions on this, if there are questions, let me know. If there's no questions on this, this is probably the most important thing. Post showing, what do you do? You contact the listing agent right away. After the showing, if they say, we like this house, say we want to move forward, say no problem, and they ask you, how much should we offer on it? How much should we offer on it? What do you guys respond to that question? What do you think we should offer on it? It's listed at 250. It's on the market for 23 days. What should we offer on it?
Now what you just call the listing agent,
No,
get a
I'm the
few.
client. I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
We're standing outside the house. I'm
yeah,
saying, Tanim, it's been on the market for over 20 days, over 3 weeks. It's listed at
yeah.
250. What do you think? How much should we offer on this house?
And what would I tell them? I'd say let me talk to the listing agent and get a feel for
Yeah,
well what's going on with the property,
yeah,
and then we can
exactly.
discuss.
Yeah, and you can start and say, I don't know,
Yeah,
and say, look, I don't want to offer more than we need to.
yeah, yeah,
And then they'll say, "Oh, okay, this guy is thinking, right?" Because what you don't want them to think is, "Oh, I don't know, he doesn't know anything," but more like, "No, I don't know," as in, I don't want to offer more than we need to. So let me talk to the agent. If there's a lot of competition, if they have offers in hand right now, as of this week, we might have to go above the asking price. But if it's been sitting idle, then maybe we can, shave some off the asking price. I just have to talk to the listing agent to understand, right? If they really push and say, "What do you think?" Then what you do is you give them two scenarios and say, "Look, if it's competitive, then I think we should do 260K, 10K above asking with a 10K appraisal gap guarantee. If it's not competitive, then I think we can get away with maybe 8K below asking. And if they don't accept, we can start the negotiation at 8K below asking and maybe wrap it up at 5K below asking." But never give one answer. Give them scenarios, because the reality is you have potential scenarios in your hand. Very competitive or not competitive. There's the other scenario, which is not competitive but stubborn seller. And you have to let them know about that. Like, hey, some sellers are very stubborn. They're not going to move. They have zero movement on the house, but they're not moving either. Okay? And what are you checking with the listing agent? Hey, number one, get a vibe. I'm calling about the property you have on Idaho. How are things going? Can you give me a little bit of a background about the house? Have you got any offers on it? First, I ask about that. This order, I would change. I would ask, how are you doing? Do you have any offers on it? And then if they say they did, ask them, how come those offers did not work out? This is such an important question to ask. How come those offers did not work out? You're putting them on the defense, and now they feel like insecure, like, oh man, there's a flaw in me as a listing agent. We didn't take those offers. And they'll say, well, you know, the seller, he was expecting for more and he didn't want to jump on that at that point. I'm like, well, now that those offers are gone, would he still entertain a price point? Because we could probably hit that price point, and that's probably a lower price point. Does that make sense? Are you following? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But they have to admit their fault first. How come those offers didn't work out? You have to make the listing agent feel a little bit insecure, right? There's a whole different training. What if you're the listing agent? How do you manage that? That's different, right? But from your end as a showing agent, how come they didn't work out? Like it's genuine curiosity, and now they have to kind of expose themselves a little bit, right? And that kind of gives you a leverage in the conversation now because you haven't exposed anything, right?
Yeah.
Then you say, okay, you have to confirm the seller's motivation. I would say commission is the last thing you talk about, and say, well, is he actually looking to sell, or do you think he's going to just sit around a little bit? Like you are interviewing them, even though you're the buyer's agent, you're interviewing them as the listing agent, right? And this really puts them back against the wall and gets them to think, okay, what is he actually talking about? Like, does my client, like, what is my client actually motivated, right? And they'll say, oh yeah, of course he's motivated. He's motivated. And then you say, well, okay, if he's motivated, then I'm guessing at any respectable offer, we can probably get it going tonight. You see what's happening? Like, I didn't even give him a price point. We're just talking, right? But, and I'm not saying all agents will be as responsive as this dialogue that I'm creating in front of you, but if you follow this train of thought, you're bound to get something out of that conversation, some value, some information that you can use and consult your client with after the fact. So you make sure of that motivation. Then after that, if everything is a check mark for you, like, okay, good vibe, low competition, they're motivated, then say, look, hey, and I'm just making sure he's giving 3% commission to the buyer side, right? And you have to ask the question like that. You don't ask what percentage is he giving to the buyer side. Because listing agents, even if the seller is giving 3%, a lot of listing agents straight up lie. I saw multiple. I saw one, I literally caught the person in the lie, but it's fine. People lie, okay? And one of the things that you guys don't consider, given that you're new agents, is that people lie a lot. So his seller said, I'll give 3%. Now you asked him a question saying, what percent is he giving? He's going to see if he can work with you and bring you down, take 0.5% to him. He'll redraft the contract. It's illegal, but he'll do it. Like, that's the reality, right? So in your head, in his head, he's like, okay, let me see if I have some room to move with this guy. So instead, you should ask him, I just want to make sure the seller is giving 3%, right? If he ends up saying no, you should sound absolutely surprised, like, whoa, really? And just pause. Like, wow, really? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right now, you're going to be connecting with him agent to agent. Because when I'm saying, wow, really? I'm not complaining about the agent. I'm complaining to the agent about his client as an agent. Like, he should be able to sympathize with me right away. It's like, oh, wow, man, that's tough, dude. Like, I thought, I didn't expect that. And now, like, you're creating sympathy for this and say, look, and then they'll probably say something like, well, you can submit it as however you want. You can say 3%, Everyone does that because now they're on the back foot, right? If, again, this is considering there's low competition. If it's high competition, it's a whole different discussion, right? If it's high competition, just confirm and say, oh, they're not, okay, no problem. We'll figure it out. I'm sure we can make something work and move on. Does that make sense? And then after that, you follow up with the client. So that's that phone call. Remember when you do that phone call, I know it's always a question mark for me when I was starting out. Like, what do I ask? What do I say? And then the rule passed in August 2 years ago or a year ago, and that changed even what else to ask. And I learned, okay, I got to ask about this. I got to ask about that. If you keep these things in mind, right? Get a feel of the vibe, check the history of the offers, check the motivation of the seller, and then confirm the commission. That's a very productive phone call. Like you just killed it. That's your value. A lot of agents are so incompetent, they have no idea they're supposed to ask these things, right? And you just stood out from everybody else by asking those specific parameters. And then you follow up with the client and say, look, here's what I think, here's the situation. Or if you feel like the client's a little bit, complicated, then you talk to the main agent. Maybe it's me helping you with this. Then you say, okay, Syed, here's the answer to A, B, C, D, and then you'll see how I follow up. But the idea is to see based on your client's personality, right? Some clients, if you give them one small thing, they kind of run with it, right? So you have to be okay. You have to understand, like, how do I work with my client? So before you share information, you ask the client questions. For example, you're gonna ask, hey, I got to speak to the agent. I'm just wondering, is this a house you guys actually like? You have to help them remember they actually like the house. Because what ends up happening is a lot of clients, they'll start debating and bargaining with you, and you represent them. For whatever reason, their brain just shifts like that. It's a natural defense mechanism for them. So what you have to do is remind them, okay, do you actually like this? Okay, and say, okay, fine, that's great. I think we can get it at this price point. And because I just spoke to the agent and they look comfortable at 245. Right then and there, a lot of clients will say, then let's put in 240. And that's like very heartbreaking, demotivating, because you already pre-negotiated, right? And that's why it's important for you to have those conversations ahead of time. Say, look, who's leading the negotiation? Worst case scenario, yeah, you will submit it at 240 because the client has the final say. But if it doesn't work out, you need to remind the client that their assumption was incorrect. Every single touch point that you are correct and your client is incorrect, you need to respectfully remind him of that. Because when you do, then they remember that you have value, you bring something into it. A lot of clients are so obsessed with their own ego, they think they are making everything work and you're just showing them houses. But you're actually bringing a lot of value. And you need to remind them that, hey, look, remember how you thought it was, I know you were thinking at 240, but it kind of went with 245. You don't have to say I'm right and you're wrong, but it's reminding of how the scenario was. Like, hey, you were thinking, I know you wanted 240, but I'm glad it worked out still. I think 245 is a good price. You see what I'm saying? And it's kind of like that, because otherwise people won't actually respect you, right? And that's how I see so many agents, they just get pushed over. Now, if you want them to push you over, that's different. There are certain clients you're going to come across. They could be someone very beloved to you, dear to you, and you'll have one or two clients like that where you're like, fine, I'll let you push me over. But every client cannot be like that. Obviously, there are exceptions, right? But like you can't let that, like one of my teachers, if I show them a house, I'm gonna have them push me over because that's my teacher. That's the parameter I set for myself. But if it's not a teacher, for example, then I would follow the same professional conduct that I have with everybody else. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
You can define that for yourself, but I've seen agents who do it for everybody, and I'm like, no. You're never gonna sell a house, and people will not respect you for what you're doing, and you won't be able to bring in the proper value that you're supposed to as a showing or list buyer's agent. Now, Tanim asked the question, what do you do after the showing when they want to add more houses? Simply put, really comes down to your schedule. Say, the first thing is that if your schedule is tight and you can't do it, say it. I wish we kind of coordinate this ahead of time. I have another appointment to go to. You don't have to say if it's a doctor's appointment or your mom's appointment. I have another appointment. Appointment is a meeting with a set time to do an activity. That activity can be whatever it is for you. If that means you go home to your son, you go home to your son. That is your appointment with your son, right? Don't let other people dictate what is a valuable appointment in your life or not. You dictate what is valuable in your life or not, right? And so if you don't have time, say, I really wish I could have done this. Actually, what would have been better is if you had just sent this to me ahead of time, so I could have considered it in the time frame that I have. I don't have time right now, but I do have time, for example, tomorrow or the day after, right? And next time they do that, before the showing start, and say, hey, I just want to make sure, are these the best houses for us to consider, or do you think there are other homes? That's one approach. Other approach is, let's say you actually have a really slow day today, and you actually don't mind, you're happy to do it, right? you want to capitalize that on that and have them understand your value and say it straight up and say, well, to be honest, I was just expecting to show the house, well, show houses with you today from 5 to 6. But you know what? That's fine. We can make it work.
Yeah.
You have to frame it like that. You can't say,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it. No, say the truth. What is the truth? The truth is, I expected to spend time with you from 5 to 6 today. That is the truth number one. Truth number
Yeah.
two, but it's fine because I do think it's fine. Let's go ahead. I'll make it work. I am making it work. The fact
Yeah.
that I was gonna go home and watch Netflix has nothing to do with this. I am still making it work because I am still choosing to schedule something last minute for you, and you need to understand and value that, right?
Right.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a routine for us every single
Yeah.
time. And in this
I
case,
think
they
we
will
were saying,
appreciate you. In the first one, they will appreciate the fact that they should have coordinated ahead of time or communicated better ahead of time. And in the second case, they will appreciate the fact that you are doing them a favor. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah.
Anytime you do a favor, make sure you frame it as such. It doesn't mean you're being arrogant. It doesn't mean you're being rude. It just means you're explaining the reality of what is happening in words.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty much everything I have from my side. Do you guys have any questions or follow-up questions based on what I presented? It is 1:38, 30 minutes.
Well, nothing from my end right now. I'm about to hop off side, okay?
Okay, sounds good. All right,
Okay,
guys.
that's all. Thank you
Assalamu
for the
alaikum.
training.
Take care, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum.